Can we go now? Okay.
Like now.
Like now.
Now.
Not tomorrow now, but
No,
now.
Now.
This is the Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethi.
Your host, Sethi.
And stylist Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we?
Thank you, Sir Nav. Thank you, Sir Rashi.
Wait, what?
Welcome to
Excuse me?
Elevated Grapes. This is your host, Sethi.
And Stylist Rashi Bindra, Miss Rashi Bindra, just to
Well, last week you
clarity.
confirmed that you were a mister.
I did not confirm that I was a mister. I said I was talking about masculine and feminine energies that all of us have, including you.
Right.
Even though you are a man, you also have feminine energies at times. That does not make you a
Yes.
miss.
When females are around.
No, when they're not around, that you tend to have your feminine energies.
Like when I drink my tea?
No. God, how are we friends? How?
Maybe that's something we should change in 2020.
What, not be friends?
I don't know. So today's show, we're actually going to touch on what you just mentioned there. We did a bit of it. Well, not bit. We got into it a little bit in the end of our last show last week, where we were talking just about this, just energies and how both men and women receive those energies from the opposite sex, or maybe even from the same sex. Just but how they receive those energies, both personally and professionally.
Right.
And you've been through a lot of experiences where you've dealt, especially in the fashion industry, because it is quite feminine focused, but there's a lot of male representation in it as well. You've been through that many times, both with women and men, where what you're bringing to the table may be refused just because of the energy or the way they perceive it to be versus what you're actually talking about.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit, and then let's use that to snowball the conversation, because I think that's a really relevant conversation, both on a personal level and in the fashion industry, because the industry itself deals with a lot of that.
But before we do that,
Okay, so we're not going to do this apparently.
just going back to some of the points that we touched on last week. So we ended our last podcast with me talking about energies, right, and the lessons I learned last year. But we never got around to what you learned last year and your take on energies, Miss Sadar.
Well, I learned a lot. I learned that Rashi's a man.
Okay, I just said I just called you a miss, so
Right.
there you go.
We learned that. That was a big.
Can you please stop saying that?
part of the
People-
conversation
People
last
will think it's real.
Wow. Listen, you
I
admitted
have
to it.
female parts. I am 1,000% female. Trust me.
What I learned last year, we'll make it quick because I don't want to spend the whole conversation on this again. But what I learned last year was, oh my God, there's so many different things. It was a big year for me because, well, you and I had met and then we started our project. So that was a huge sort of new direction for me, both on a personal and professional growth level, because going through this process with our projects through Elevated Grapes really tested my ability to time manage, to learn and grow in different areas that I didn't know in the past. So I had to learn new skills. It was actually an eye-opener for me because I thought I could run into a show and just host it without having any sort of, issues or challenges. But as I started to re-listen to a lot of our shows, there's things that I learned on how I approach my conversations, how I speak, how I direct conversations as a host, and that was a huge learning experience for me too, in a very helpful way. So it's been a lot of personal growth as in terms of skill sets, but in terms of like learning new things for myself, and a lot of professional growth in terms of my career trajectory with hosting. So those were quite massive learning experiences for me on a personal level. I mean, it was stressful, just like it was for you, in the sense that we're trying to manage so many different things, both our personal lives and our professional lives, and our projects. And so that was a huge learning experience for me, just from the standpoint of me being able to understand what I can take on and what I can't. And same things you talked about, like when my body's telling me, okay, well, that's it. Like nothing else is happening today or this week or this weekend. Like, you're done. We're shutting you down. Because I mean, I work as well. So I mean, trying to manage between all that, and certain times, I don't want that to be affected. So I'm trying to manage the things I can within the time frames outside of that. And sometimes your body's like, well, you can't, right? So it was a huge learning experience. And we talked about with you taking time for yourself and taking time with your family and taking time with your friends. And those are all very, very important things that I've always been doing.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'm willing to let go of, because I know I know the importance of having that balance, because I don't want to have burnout, and I don't want to go through those challenges where I can't be productive. So if that means to me, okay, well, some projects are going to take a little bit longer, that's okay. That's how I look at it. It's not that I don't want to do them, but I will do them when and how I can effectively get them, so I can give my proper attention to it and make sure I can operate in a manner that's fair to the people I'm working with and to myself. Because if I'm taking on more than I can handle, I'm not going to win, and they're not going to win.
Right.
Right. And I'm not going to give, and if I could do something to a certain caliber under normal circumstances, but right now if I'm stressed and I'm trying to just complete it for the sake of getting it done right now, I'm not being fair to the project as well. So that was a big sort of, not even learning, but reinforcement to me that it's important. And obviously the conversations we've had about you, and even some of our other friends that have experienced sort of burnout and other depression or whatever the case, hearing the common themes over and over just reinforces some of those things, that it's very important to give ourselves that time. Otherwise we're not being fair to ourselves and those around us.
Yeah.
Right. So that's about 3 minutes. Really good. 3 minutes to sum up my learnings from last year and sort of a high level. That's what I would have taken away from.
I will just point out, it's not fair that I could go into a deeper conversation about my experiences and we let him get away with like a high level stuff. That's just actually really, really not fair.
Or maybe I'm just more effective with my words.
No, you keep interrupting me half the time.
I don't interrupt.
Okay.
I give direction.
Yeah, okay. So moving on.
I help you formulate your thoughts.
So moving on.
So we were going to talk about the energies both on a professional and personal level, and how they receive both between men and women. Specific now, we're going to get into the fashion industry. And I think you can speak to this a little bit more. I will chime in based on my experiences from the recent, like this last year, because that's where my involvement has been. And even that, it's still, I did maintain to some degree, even though I was there with a lot of the different events and meeting a lot of folks, I still kind of maintained a bit of a outsider's perspective, because I want to understand it a little bit more before I dive in. And you've been in this for a few years now, so when you have a bit more of a grasp on it. So let's sort of share that. Some of let's say you're working on a project and you're taking it to the table with some friends or folks in that industry. Like what sort of has been the reaction from both men and women, given what the industry is about?
So now when I, again, like, once you understand the whole feminine and masculine energies that we all have, right? Every one of us, we're more dominant in one or the other. It's just how we are. It's just how our environment, our
and yours is masculine,
experiences.
like you mentioned. I'm not making fun. I'm actually stating.
Yes, I think with my
I'm also making fun a
experiences,
little
I
bit.
know, but I tend to say with my experiences in life, just what I've been through, maybe even if I want it to be more feminine, my masculine energy side took over. It's not necessarily
So let's actually break that down. What is that energy? Like what when you say masculine energy, how do you come across that it would be defined as masculine?
So masculine energies are energies where we come across as a little bit, aggressive, like a bit more blunt, a bit more straightforward, we tend to do. We tend to just keep going. We tend to try and balance things up, but we tend to do it ourselves without.
So would you say that's a personality character trait, or would you say it goes down to like both masculine and feminine? Because I know there's a lot of women that are like that.
And that's what I'm getting at, right?
Okay.
Like, so that's the part where it's your masculine energy that takes over. A feminine energy is when you can take a step back from things.
Caring, nurturing.
Yeah, and you like learn to let go, and you wait for things sometimes to happen, and like you said, you're a bit more caring, you're a bit more nurturing.
But you have that's a very strong part of your personality too.
But in the professional world, that doesn't come across right away like that, right? Like, see, keep in mind, you know me from a different side because the way we met was through a friend. And I approached you, so then that's my masculine part, right? Where I was just like our friend mentioned you to me and said, oh, he wants to do like your events, and I will introduce you. I didn't wait for that introduction. I messaged him like, hey, blah, 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 and then we just started, right? But then the way you and I started talking, just evolved into a quick friendship and a quick professional
Yeah, both.
relationship.
We hit both right away.
So, but normally, right, if I had more of a feminine energy, I would wait for that introduction, right? I would be waiting,
That's I'm
letting
not,
go.
I'm not, but I'm talking about the caring,
Like,
nurturing side. 'Cause
caring,
that's a very,
nurturing part
it's
is
a very
there.
prominent characteristic of yours.
Yeah, but that's my characteristic once people get to know me. But people who don't know me, they don't see that right away. How many times have we done events where people see
That's
me
fair.
like, I'm just to the point, I'm doing my
Yes,
stuff,
yes,
I'm
yes.
getting stuff done, and I'm thinking. And there's a reason, if you've noticed, I tend to get a lot better with guys than with girls because I'm not wasting time on certain types of conversations, right?
But so it's an interesting comment you make, which you're right, and I do think
Right.
I do think you do that, aside from like the few that are in your inner circle. But a lot of women say that. Almost every female friend that I have,
They say
s-
that,
but it's true too. So let's understand that. I mean, what they're all the same mindset. It's like I can get along better with a guy because it's easier to have that conversation with them.
and again every person is different, so I'm not gonna go into
course,
every
yeah.
female conversation, but I'm just saying, but that's what I mean. That's where your masculine energies take over. Now, how do I bring that in the professional world? So when I stepped into your world of music and DJing and those sort of things, that's still more male dominated,
Yes, it is.
right? So the way you approach that, because you have the experience for years, is very different. And we both have seen when I had to approach those conversations and like hold my ground, it was a very different struggle. So my dominant masculine side or my masculine
had
energies
to
had to take over.
to almost be at the same level.
Exactly. And then all the events we've done in the last year, which were more pertained to the music industry, we all know I was the only girl dealing with that. Like from
but
that main group,
Let's
right?
let's also break that down a little bit, because let's just say, for example, I was in the forefront versus you in some of those conversations and managing those relationships.
Yeah.
I think it would have gone very differently if I had done them, because I probably would not have been. It would have been because it's a guy to a guy,
It's perceived very differently.
and I think a lot. I would have not been I would have been brushed aside a lot easier too, because it's like, well, it's a main dude.
but-
But I think with you there was a bit more of a, well, let's also give her a chance because it is not her world, or it's not like something like, you know what I mean.
That's actually not the case.
Because I think like I think about some of the conversations that you've had, and those, and we've talked about them after the fact, and my relationship with those people would have ended, or not, and but like they wouldn't have continued the way they did.
Well, so
Like they wouldn't have been they wouldn't have given me
right.
those opportunities in those scenarios.
But a lot of them so because most of it was a group chat until they all met me in person after months, right? A lot of them thought that I was a guy. A lot of them did not know that I was a girl there, right? They all thought that I was a guy bringing in my peeps. So I was facing that challenge with them, almost like boys being boys sort of thing. So I am in a space again where I have to take care of myself. I have to stand up for myself. I have to rely on myself. Now the feminine part, which is a little bit more of you at times, your feminine, like, so when you deal with certain things, and this is not a negative quality. It's actually it's actually great because you have managed to, keep a lot of relationships intact with that. Is your feminine energies come out, and that's a good thing as well.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Miss Sagar Sethi.
Please explain so even I understand, let alone our guests.
Your caring, your nurturing side, your ability to step back and let go and think of things and just be more calmer, just be more understanding without reacting in certain ways, brings out that side and that energy of you. When I became aware of that, and I think you've noticed in the past few weeks, because that's when I became aware of that. When I approach certain things now, I'm less aggressive about it. I'm less like in your face about it, right?
You just did one of these.
Yeah, I'm like less in your face about it.
In your face.
I'm less in your face about it. So when I started,
You just went straight thug on us. Straight thug.
my high school days are like creeping up
You
again.
were rapping just now. In your face.
There's many sides to me which you do not know, clearly.
I'm Rashi Bindra in your face.
So when...
We're going to produce a track. Rashi's going to rap on it.
Oh my god, that... You know how funny that would be? But,
It'd be hilarious. Pat, if you're listening,
start on this.
put together a beat and we'll bring Rashi into the studio.
But so now when I started approaching, you know, my conversations with the exact same people, being more aware of who they are and how to react on certain things, the results are getting different. I'm still given that respect because I've earned it, but it's less, it's just handled a lot more differently, right? So that's what I mean. Our
Well, I think
energies are very
there's also
different.
there's a difference there too. Like your conversations with some of these folks, because you've worked with them on projects from a different perspective, and they have that respect for you because you've come in and you've delivered what you said you're going to deliver and probably exceeded it. So when you're now approaching them from a different angle and saying, well, we'd like to do this also, they were more accepting of that because they know, okay, Rashi, if she comes in, she's going to keep her word and she's going to do what she's saying
So
she's doing.
on a professional level, for me personally, having a bit more of a masculine energy helped me. Yes, by all means, because I stepped into worlds that I had no knowledge of. I had no backing. I had no one to show me the ropes. Right.
Yeah.
I had to do all of that by myself.
Let's talk about it specific to the fashion industry, though.
So, and same thing with the fashion industry, right? When I stepped into the fashion industry, especially in Montreal, again, no one to show me the ropes. I had to learn it all by myself. It was more male dominated there versus it's over here.
So here it's more female dominated.
Now it's a bit
Or
more
it's close.
It's
pretty
more or
even.
less, it's pretty even, but and this is like slightly over. It's about 10 years. 10 years. Slightly over.
You're talking about your Montreal days.
When I stepped into this industry.
But in Toronto, it's been, what, 3 or 4?
I came in 2014 and I jumped into everything that year as well. Like I just somehow...
So 5 years now.
Yeah, pretty much. I did it by myself again, right?
Yeah.
So, so in Montreal at that point, again, I didn't know anybody. Whichever way it came to me was again very male dominated. So I had to battle that. I had to learn what I could over there. I dealt with people that like now when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, like I was in situations where I had to pull off or I had to cancel, things last minute because I was being like bullied and stuff like that, right? And I've had like guys come up to me and try and like threaten me at that point. So
Like emotionally, physically, like...
oh no, like physically,
Okay.
like these big guys back in high school, or like college even. So, and I was fairly tiny back then, right? So they used that as an intimidating
Try
factor.
to intimidate, yes.
So all of these things, it's either I would be scared and not go into this industry, or I had to like fight back.
So but let's talk about that even from a female to female perspective. I mean, it's no secret a lot of times females don't get along because it gets quote unquote, and I don't mean to use this term, but catty, right?
Women do get catty because they get very insecure.
So let's talk about that, especially specific to this industry. I mean, I'm sure you run into that on many occasions. But how is it different for you? Because you said, you mentioned that it's easier for you to communicate when you're working on projects with guys, just because either it's the way your delivery is or the way they're perceiving it. But versus, let's talk about some of the experiences you've had working with other women in the industry.
That again, what I didn't realize, which was now a huge learning curve for me, is that a lot of women in the industry, despite being go-getters and running their empires and all of those things, they still have a more feminine side of how they handle things. So when they deal with like other women, like they can sit and that 1 hour meeting will become 2.5 hours because the first hour is gone in talking about, your date and your hair and like your lipstick
stuff
and
that has
stuff like
nothing
that.
to do with the conversation.
And I, because of my experiences in Montreal, and then because even when I moved here, right, I went to stuff on my own. I built myself up all over again. My masculine side has always been there. So for me to sit and have those conversations just was not fruitful. I'm like, just like just get to the point, let's go. With guys, you'll like, and we've had that too sometimes. We like when we have a deadline or a timeline, we'll not sit and have a 3-hour conversation on life. We'll be like,
Of course, we gotta get this
exactly,
done.
right? So that's where my stuff like kicks in.
I mean, our
more.
whole life is like that because we're always running and trying to complete so many things.
And we're trying to have our like, days where we can just like not do that, and
Yes.
that's also like super important. But in general, I'm saying, right, like when we have things to get done or when we have to meet
Yeah, we're
for
focused.
things,
It's laser focus.
women are not like that most of the time when they're with other women. So, and they pick up on their energies as well. So when you meet a bunch of girls, right, you'll always notice that one's a little bit of a ringleader, right? Every girl kind of has their place in
Place.
that. In
But I think that goes
posse.
with guys too in their groups.
No, hold on. They have that thing. So when they want to have that female to female conversation, even in fashion, even in like on a professional basis, it's kind of like they're able to talk about lipstick and guys and dates and stuff like that for an hour, and then dabble into things, and then very, very, very politely talk about money and things like that. Guys don't do that. We're very they're very to the point.
You said we are very.
I know. I just realized that as well.
So I'm just confirming again. This is 2 shows in a row where you confirm that you're a man.
So when I sit with girls, right, for me, it's that part of my mind is like, let's get to the point. Let's do this. Let me get my contract. I have a bunch of things to do.
Let me ask you a question. So you've said that you typically get along with guys better, and most girls say they typically get along with guys better. But if you have this stronger masculine energy or traits, then why do you find it still more challenging to get along with women?
Because I have to learn to be a lot more nurturing and a lot more feminine.
So you're
and a
saying
lot
women
more-
need that, even though, but like as a guy, like a lot of guys are not nurturing, but women say they get along with guys better.
Well, because it's again, that's also a bit of a generalized statement, right? Now,
Yeah.
you can have a girl who is very feminine getting along with a guy who's very masculine, because he'll need her nurturing side and she'll need his
He's alpha.
exactly, there you go.
Yes.
Now, like one of my girlfriends, she is amazing. She has a lot more feminine energy than I do, and I've noticed when we go out, when we get ready and stuff, she'll tell me, she's like, Rashi, no, you should not say these things. That's not very feminine. That's not very girly. You know what I mean? You don't want to come across like this. And even though she's, again, strong in what she's doing in terms of her profession, her energies will always be very, very feminine, right? So that's what I mean. It's how you approach and deal with women on women and things. So
How do you feel about that when someone says something like that to you?
if this was even 6 months ago, I would have been very offended. But again, that's the part of being self-aware, right? So now I see who's telling me this and from where it's coming from. This is one of my friends who
Yeah, she's
has
coming
been
from a
there
good
for me,
place.
and she's
Yes.
in a good place. Now, in a professional world, last year, there'd be a lot of times, again, with girls I've dealt with the cattiness, and I think that also comes with the confidence that I bring to what I'm doing. I've never, despite my personal growth struggles, in my professional world, I've always been confident in what I'm doing. Even if it's not gone the way I want it to go, I'll walk across the room in Mickey Mouse sneakers, you know what I mean, and sweatpants, and still own it, right?
Yes.
And there are women who will need to get their hair done and their nails done and wear 4-inch heels and still feel like they're not
Well,
there yet.
they're working on some of those security issues you just mentioned. where you're trying
Exactly.
to cover that
Exactly.
first.
But see, I don't have that. Even for New Year's, right? I came in with a hat on. I was the only girl who had a hat on, and people were pointing that out. But I was just I'm here.
I
to
mean,
have a good
you
time,
look
and
like
very
you
good.
were at a like a horse race party.
What do you mean a horse race party?
What are they called? What are those things called? When you go to the races.
The
the
Queen's Plate,
Yeah.
right?
What is that called? What is it called?
That. The one where you wear those nice hats and you bet
Yes,
on horses
there's a
and
name
things
for
like
it.
that. I know, I can't remember.
Horse racing.
No. Okay. That's why I asked you to bring your hat, which you forgot, by the way.
I said I could go back and get it. You
I
told
know,
me
but I
not to.
felt bad. I was like, the poor guy's on his way.
Whatever.
Like-
I offered it.
That's okay. At some point, I just flung that hat off too. So
You did. And then your flathead came out.
hey.
Hey.
So, anyways, point is, I know where I have my confidence, right? And I know how that rubs a lot of women the wrong
It's
way.
really gonna bother me. I can't remember what this thing is called. This horse race thing.
Well, Google it afterwards.
No, but we need it for the show. Now, can you Google it while you're horse races? What are they called? There's a name for it.
So, so as a female, now when I realize that, I can understand why I piss other females off. I may not do anything. I may not even try. I may genuinely be like, there. I will piss somebody off.
Yeah, but I think some of it also comes with awareness because maybe there are times, and this, again, I'm not saying this specific to you, any one of us. We do or say things in a manner we feel are okay, but it's but it's not.
But again,
right?
that's
Because
again.
we don't feel coming off in a certain way, but the way it's being perceived, and if it's consistently happening the same way over and over, it's being perceived the same way, then we got to be self-aware.
Right, but I meant like overall. For example, I know so many people that I may have had very little interaction with them, and they will still not like me, right? Now, and I would look back at that interaction and be like, well, what have I done? Or did I do something? And I think we've had that conversation last year, but
Sure.
I've questioned
But I think
it.
we all go through that. 'Cause
right?
we're all going to, at some point, be like, well, maybe we did something wrong or we didn't.
But again, once you start understanding certain things about yourself, you approach things very differently, and you
Yes.
approach your relationships very differently. So now I just have to be aware, and I'm sure you will be aware too,
100%.
right? That when you approach certain people, certain like whether it's in fashion, whether it's in music, how you approach your contacts, and how you get to what you want, it's about the energies you're giving off to them, so they feel comfortable, right?
So let's sort of give our closing thoughts on this, and then we'll end up next week's show, and then hopefully by then Nav will be able to find out what the horse racings are called, and then we can end off the show.
Horse racing is called horse racing.
No, there's a name.
There's a name for it, man.
They're jockeys. They're horse jockeys.
No, actually,
Horse jockeys are the
no.
people.
No,
Horse
it's
racing is an equestrian.
Equestrian. That's the word I was looking for, man. Equestrian.
Listen, I look like a very silvery, sparkly person attending
An equestrian event. How do
Yes.
you pronounce that word? Equestrian.
equestrian.
Right. Okay. So
You go first this time.
So I do agree with some of the stuff you're saying. I don't agree 100% with it because I think, like I said, yes, you have to be self-aware, and yes, you have to recognize patterns in yourself if certain things are occurring over and over in your life, and it's the same, say the same pattern with different people, but you're the common element. Then you have to investigate that common element, right? So I think I'm not saying you in specific. I'm saying any one of us.
No, but I have to make a point here is that's also not the case because you are the tribe you keep. If all 5 or all 10 of you have the same mentality and one person doesn't, the fault is not on that other person,
But that's not what I'm saying.
right?
I'm saying if I'm doing a project with certain folks in the fashion industry, certain folks in the music industry, certain folks in my corporate life, and certain folks in my personal life, but I'm managing things in a specific way, and in all of those I'm getting the same result. That's not favorable.
Then it's
That's what I'm
something
trying
in
to say.
you.
Like
Right.
then I'm the common element, and I
Right.
got to look into why does this keep happening in my life,
Yeah, yeah.
and both professionally and personally, whatever the case it is. So that's part of the self-awareness.
100%.
So I think that's energies, regardless of it's whether it's with male or female, professional or personal. Now on the personal side, I mean on the male to female side, like I personally I don't. My approach is always very and it's not because I'm blunt where I need to be blunt, but that's for me that's if the politically correct approach is not going to work, I will be blunt when I need to be blunt if I need to
Right.
get something done. But I'll always try to do it in a manner that's going to be, from my perspective, respectful of the person that I'm dealing with, both again professionally or personally. So it's not politically correct. I come to it from an angle of respect, but bluntness will be there if, for example,
But
point is not getting
that
across.
is a characteristic, right? At the end
Yes.
of the day.
But that we're talking about our final. That's my final thought on the way I approach situations. Now it's yours, and then we're gonna close off.
We have more final thoughts on me, really?
You have literally 30 seconds.
No, I mean again, right? Like it's once you have like
Now
you
just
have
yell
to
when
be,
the 30 seconds are over.
you just stop interrupting me.
Sorry.
You just have to be like self-aware
25.
of certain things. That's it, and that's how you approach men or women. That's really it is. That's really how it
Self-awareness
does
is
it.
everything. I think, and that's a key message from our conversation today.
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Whether it's fashion, music, art, whatever.
Yep. All right, folks. So thank you for tuning in to Elevated Grapes. This is your host Sethi.
And Stylist Rashi Bindra.
We will see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red, button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool, fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.